Your Majesty, an analysis of the Aes Sedai system of government. What was, what will be, and what is will not be spoiled by this report, which only contains non-plot lore spoilers. First, please note that I explore in depth how each of the Ajahs break down ideologically in a previous report, which can be found in the description below. The government of Valon is a parliamentary republic, with legislative authority vested in the Hall of the Tower, and executive and judicial authority vested in the Amelan seat. The Hall is comprised of 3 representatives from each of the 7 Ajahs, called sitters, and the Amelan seat, who presides over the Hall as the leader of both the Aes Sedai Order and the city-state of Valon. In practice, Ajahs generally behave similarly to first-age political parties in many respects, though within a system where each has a quota for seats in the legislature. As students of first-age political science will know, quota systems in legislatures tend to breed stagnation, impracticality, and even corruption, as members worry more about winning the support of their narrow group of supporters rather than pursuing the general good. Unsurprisingly, we see similar traits among no small number of the Aes Sedai. Sitters generally defer to their individual Ajah heads rather than vote their own conscience, especially on high-profile matters. These Ajah heads each have unique titles that reflect the organizational cultures of their Ajah. Both the heads and sitters themselves are selected according to the distinct internal policies of each Ajah. An Ajah head may also be a sitter, but this is usually not the case. The Amelan seat, in turn, is elected by unanimous vote of all sitters present to serve until she dies or is deposed. The Amelan additionally selects her second-in-command, called the Keeper of the Chronicles, and the Mistress of Novices, who is responsible for the training and discipline of all Tower initiates. The Keeper and the Mistress of Novices do not have voting privileges in the Hall. They are also traditionally from the Amelan's former Ajah, but this is merely common practice and not law. Frivolous calls for a vote to elect an Amelan are strongly deterred by the policy of exiling an unsuccessful candidate and all sitters who voted for her. This instead incentivizes would-be candidates and their supporters to engage in backroom negotiations to ensure they have sufficient support before proposing a formal vote in the Hall for Amelan, and also ensures the Tower is united behind whoever eventually becomes Amelan. Quorum for a meeting or sitting of the Hall requires the presence of at least half of the Hall, or 11 of 21 sitters, to include when the Hall is electing a new Amelan seat. In all matters except the deposition of an Amelan, the Amelan and the Keeper must also be present for a sitting to begin. In Tower law, all actions are categorized as either acquiring the greater or lesser consensus, which is merely a more complex way of saying that some specific more weighty actions require the unanimous support of all present in the Hall, and all others require a 2/3 majority. The Aes Sedai have been fortunate that sitters are generally conciliatory and not obstructive when it comes to votes in the Hall. Otherwise, the Aes Sedai would accomplish even less than what they already do. The rules of quorum and the requirements for 2/3 support of even the most basic of actions means that, depending on the number of sitters present, an Amelan must earn the support of between 11 and 14 sitters for any proposal to be enacted, which numbers represent the floor for a governing majority in the Hall. In sum, the government of Valon is unusual in the Westlands because of its greatly empowered legislature, who both makes the laws and chooses the head of state and government. The system's power dispersion prevents single points of failure in the government, and requires the Amelan seat to command the affections and loyalty of all Aes Sedai, and not simply rule with an iron fist, at least in the long term. However, high vote thresholds make taking any action difficult, and the Amelan's life tenure and difficulty of removal invites abuse of power. Additionally, the system is so complex that it at times is ill-defined, inviting chaos. I must confess, Your Majesty, I admire this system of government to an extent, and/or may benefit from incorporating some aspects of it. The details of what this would look like, though, is a matter of discussion for another day. Your Majesty, this concludes our report. Forward the white line of Andor. My ladies and lords of the Westlands, Aiel wise ones and clan chiefs, rulers from other sundry lands, if you find the reports my clerks and I produce to be helpful as you labor in the service of your people, do honor us with your raised thumbs, patronage, and subscriptions. Until our next report.